Okay, this is the motherboard I've chosen today. That's the ECS H67H2-M. I've imported it from Hong Kong as it's not available in Australia. It's the B3 stepping version, which is clearly identifiable by the version 1.1 here, and also the B3 as indicated on the sticker here. I'll try and give you a close-up in a second. The heatsinks again are quite large, and they will probably cause some problems with aftermarket heatsinks. They're 35mm high, about 36 from the base of the motherboard. "45mm wide by 80, the main one. The other one is 55 by 30. The remaining heatsinks are nowhere near the same size and more in line with what you'll typically find on other motherboards. It has 116 by PCIe, 2 4s and a PCI expansion slot. It has various unique features: error code display, power and reset buttons on the board. Not particularly useful in a home theatre PC. I'll just give you a close-up there of that B3 information. As you can see here, this is the version 1.1, and there's the B3 indicator there, which is, for anyone that doesn't know, the original chipset version of this Sandy Bridge supported motherboard was exposed to a serial ATA6 fault. Okay, one thing I've found with this particular motherboard is that when removing the stickers, the CPU socket cover is silver backed. The memory one is also easily removable. Unfortunately, the one on the back that was placed here is not so easily removable and leaves part of the sticker behind, and it's proving to be quite difficult to remove. I'd like to see that rectified. Okay, I've removed the optical drive cage, which is a matter of removing 4 screws. Just slides in and out. As you can see, the standard cooling fans come with the filter on the inside, which doesn't make cleaning particularly easy. I've also noticed that with these fans, I've tried them out already, they're quite noisy with the fan filters on. Removing them, however, increases the airflow, but also the noise quite significantly. So the next thing I'll be doing is removing these fans and installing the Noctua and Scythe fans. Okay, these are the 3 fans I'll be talking about. This is the original fan that comes with the Silverstone GD06 case. There's 3 of them included. They're the golf ball fans rated at 1500 RPM. As you can see, the cord is quite long and shouldn't pose any problems in the larger cases, but it's probably a bit long for a home theatre PC case. Noctua comes with a somewhat shorter lead. It's sheathed, which is nice. It comes with the ultra low noise adapter, which drops the speed from 900 to 700 RPM. Comes with screws and a power adapter if you're not plugging it into the motherboard. It also comes with the silicone mounts to reduce vibration. I've already compared the airflow of these particular 2 fans with the Scythe and the Noctua. They're about the same at the gate, at the same speed, and the noise level is very similar. However, the Scythe fan does seem to exhibit some vibration if just held in the hand. It's quite obvious as compared to the Noctua, which is runs very smoothly. It's sort of a pulsing type vibration that you get from this particular fan. I know the Noctua has something called the smooth drive waveform, etc. I'm not exactly certain of what the details are. One nice inclusion though of the Scythe fan is the power adapter. Has the ability to use a 12 volt adapter and also provides a feedback loop to the motherboard so you can monitor the speed of the particular fan. Something that the Noctua doesn't include, so that's one thing to consider. Okay, I've installed the motherboard and the power supply into the case. I've also inserted the memory modules and the CPU. Cable management's fairly easy in this case. It has a couple of pop outs here for cable ties to attach to. This particular power supply has only just enough length on the CPU power to skirt around the outside of the motherboard. There's plenty of room on the main power supply to the motherboard. So overall I think it's quite neat. Most of the I/O headers etc have been tucked underneath the motherboard. The only one is the main cooling fan. That's actually run across the top of the motherboard. But overall pretty happy with the result. I've used the silicon mounts that were supplied with the Noctua fan on the Scythe due to the vibration issues that I mentioned earlier. Bear in mind that they're quite difficult to get in, particularly this bottom corner and the top here. Extremely hard to get in, so keep that in mind. Other than that, it looks pretty good. Okay, this is the stock Intel cooler for the 2500K. It's quite slim, as you can see. Should be no problem in most home theatre PCs. I know the fans are already quite good as far as noise goes on the Intels, but I have chosen to go for an aftermarket cooler, which is the Scythe. It has a 120mm fan. Has a quite open design, so it shouldn't limit airflow in any way. Has the advantage of being a top-down cooler, which cools the memory modules and heat sinks on the motherboard. Coincidentally, they're almost exactly the same height. There's probably 0.5 millimetre in it as far as height goes, but obviously it's quite a bit larger and may cause some problems on some motherboards in some cases. The height clearance on this particular heatsink is 35mm according to specification, but that's to the bottom of the heatsink. In actual fact, the clearance to the bottom of the from the bottom of the heat pipe to the surface of the heatsink is probably about 34mm. So something to keep in mind. It shouldn't present any problems for this particular motherboard, as it's the heatsinks are 35mm from the base of the motherboard, whereas the CPU actually sits up about 5mm higher. So I should have about 5mm clearance, but we'll soon find out. Okay, word of warning with this particular heatsink: make sure you install it before you put the motherboard into the case. I found a way around it simply by putting two of the mounts in and clipping them down first. Then I'm going to simply slide into these two notches like that, and then clip the final two down. So hopefully that works, otherwise I'm going to have to pull everything apart. Okay, I've managed to install the heatsink. As you can see, the spacing here between the heatsink and the optical drive caddy is only 20mm. You can actually put a 20mm fan in there, however the airflow is completely blocked by the caddy and the optical drive. With the slimline fan, there is sufficient room for airflow. I'm not sure whether I'm going to be using this particular fan or whether I'm going to be using one of the Arctic Cooling open type fans with the fluid dynamic bearing as opposed to that fan. We'll cross that bridge when we get to it. But the open type arctic cooling fan will fit as it's a 20mm fan, but it has an open cage, which I'll show later on, so it will have sufficient airflow. Okay, what I might do now is grab the optical drives and the other hard drives and start installing those. The other thing I will mention is that the second fan here, most of the airflow is blocked, but it does have the additional benefit of directing what airflow does come out right across the CPU area. However, again, that's one of the main reasons why I chose this to be my main inlet fan, as the path is less blocked and most of the airflow will still flow over the CPU area, and most importantly the heatsink for the motherboard. Okay, I'll just give you a shot without the caddy in place. As you can see, there's probably only a millimetre of clearance over this particular heatsink, and the memory module is probably about 1.5 mils. Obviously modules 1 and 2 can't be removed while the heatsink is in place, which is something to be aware of. Modules 3 and 4 obviously can come out quite easily, but make sure you install your components in the right order. Don't make the same mistake I did. Okay, the optical drive I'm using is a carryover from my existing one. It's an SHB123. It has a sort of mirrory finish on it and a nice thumbprint. It's quite a short drive, and from experience it's very quiet. It's just a Blu-ray ROM combined DVD writer. So no Blu-ray burning for me on this particular machine. As you can see, 4 holes. I'm using the front holes on this particular drive. Probably do difference depending on which drive you're using. And it simply installs like so. Just line up the front. Nice and easy. Okay, I've mounted the SSD. It can only be mounted with the connections at the pointing towards the other hard drive. The raised lip here prevents plugging in the power and serial ATA cables. Bit of an oversight. It looks like it would fit, but it does actually put a bit of pressure on the connections, whereas opposed to here it's fine. This hard drive here is mounted on soft rubber grommets. I haven't actually screwed it in yet, and as I suspected, this here is actually to provide access to the connections. So, and those connections will come out on this side, so you can loop them back around. The drive will actually mount the other way, but then there's no room to actually plug in the power and serial ATA cables. Okay, I've got most of the pieces in place now. Cable management posed a bit of a challenge. I've used this support brace to clip the cables to keep the cables out of the fan. I'm using this fan just to see how it goes. Plus my first hard drive here, I'll be suspending another one in this area at a later date. But it's pretty tidy. That's not as good as I'd hope, but it's okay. And shortly I'll be plugging everything in, seeing how much power it draws, how much noise it makes, etc.